Hey everybody, back again. Another Patreon upload. So this is for an episode that was just on the Patreon. It was a So What Else episode, which was the show that was just on Patreon to draw people over to it. This is when me and Seth went and saw the most recently released Resident Evil movie, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. We went for no reason other than to just kind of shit talk the movie. There was no other reason. We knew it wasn't going to be good. We kind of went into it expecting it to be at least better than the Paul W.S. Anderson films. It was better, but I wouldn't say it was good. And people have pretty much forgotten about the movie at this point. So we went through the ins and outs of the movie and why it ultimately doesn't work. A lot of eye-rolling moments. William Birkin being a surrogate father to Chris Redfield. We don't know why. Why they adapted 2 games into one movie that was only an hour and 40 minutes. I don't know. There's a lot of problems with that movie. Would I recommend watching it? Probably not. I'd recommend watching the animated movies first. This was a fun little discussion. Seth and I just kind of I got a little drunk on this one because it really hurts that they just can't get this franchise right. It's the simplest, easiest thing in the world. It's a Resident Evil movie. It's not that difficult. I am looking forward to seeing the documentary about George Romero's canceled Resident Evil film. I am looking forward to seeing that because apparently that was long into development until it was eventually canceled, and then Paul W.S. Anderson stepped in and did his version. Which is how we ended up with 6 terrible movies. This is just a short little discussion. Seth and I went through it. Talked about some lore of the games, talked about how we wish it was more like just one game being adapted. Why did they not just adapt one game? Just why did they do 2 at the same time? That made no sense. But Resident Evil's kind of having a resurgence right now with the remakes coming out and Resident Evil 9 being in development at the moment. It seems like a franchise that will never, ever, ever end, which, is a good and a bad thing. So here it is. This is mine and Seth's discussion about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Enjoy. Welcome to a brand new episode of So What Else. I'm drinking tonight.
Dude, I snuck alcohol into the theater. Did I not tell you that?
You got it in the theater. Oh, yes.
I snuck a half pint of Smirnoff in and mixed it into my cherry Coke, and I had a better time for it.
Oh, yeah, and because that's what you need to do when you have to go to see Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I'm your host, Jesse, and I'm here with Seth.
Hello!
Seth just got out of seeing Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I saw it a few days ago. We may have a friend of mine joining in a little bit later. Seth, what'd you think?
Jesse, I want to hate more of this movie than I hate, but I also want to love more of this movie than I love, and that's a frustrating place to be in for this thing.
Yeah. This movie currently sits at a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I feel like that's kind of what it deserves, in my opinion.
No, I'm not at 24. I'm at like a 54. I want it to be divisive for sure, but at 24 feels like an incomplete movie to me, and I feel like we got a complete film. So
did we?
Well,
are you sure about that?
We got enough of the things that I needed to be there.
Okay, I'm cracking open another Guinness.
Oh, deal.
Jesus.
I'm going to represent the good cop on this episode.
Okay, I'll be the bad cop.
In that I want to defend a lot, but I also want it to be known I only think like 60% of this movie is great.
Yeah. Also, let's get it out of the way right now. This movie is a closer adaptation of the games than the Anderson films.
100%.
Yes. That said, they made a dumb decision by combining Resident Evil 1 and 2 into the same story.
100%.
It just, there's so fucking much shoved into this one movie, and yet it still feels like it's missing pieces. You know?
It's absolutely...
What was it I told you before? Before you went to see this, I said it's a movie that's missing every other scene.
You're not, and like that's so apt. It's so apt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'll get into why in a second for sure.
Yeah. So this for anybody that asks, like, why don't you ever cover any of the Resident Evils on Film Rescue? Simple. You can't fix them.
Yeah.
We can't because the problem is that every subsequent film after the first movie that Anderson did, kind of the first sequence of that following film retroactively erases everything behind it.
Yeah.
Each movie is like its own separated narrative.
Yeah.
Like the third movie, it takes place in a desert, and because they say all the water dried up. And then the fourth movie, all the water comes back.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why? It's because they just want set pieces. They don't care about continuity in those films. So you can't really fix them because each one indirectly, or rather say directly, erases the previous one. So you can't fix them. And the only way you can really fix them is just say, oh, just do the games. That's it. Just do the games. And they did that here with this film, but they did 2 games. So here's the Film Rescue. Just do 1 game. Done. That's it. Just do 1 game. Just do 1 game and you're done.
I wish it were that easy.
I agree. There is a lot more problems than that. But if you want to get down to the base level, just do the first game. That's it.
Yeah. We get to talk about so many, like, I feel like all of our podcasts converge on this one, where it's like a little bit Film Rescue and a little bit That Weird Ass Game and a little bit Split the Difference.
Yeah, this is going to be an amalgamation episode.
Yeah. Because I agree, like, every film since the third Resident Evil has been trying to be the capstone film.
Yeah, like, this is where it's ending, and then they kept going, and then that's where it's supposed to end, and then it keeps going.
And,
God.
Not to too early toot my social media, if you check out my TikTok, I did a video, brief as it was, on why the editing is so bad, like, catastrophically bad in the original films.
Yes.
Now,
absolutely abhorrent all the time.
It breaks cinematic filmmaking rules every half second.
Mm-hmm. Crossing the 180-degree line, cutting too quickly, not cutting on continuity, just...
changing on different lighting.
Oh, yeah.
Changing on costumes and damage. Like, there's no continuity to the fight scenes.
None.
And they're bad. And,
yes.
Hey, thankfully, this new movie is edited competently. There's lingering shots. I get to see things for more than a second. I was breathing sighs of relief, and this is the 60% that I want to defend. I was breathing sighs of relief where I was like, oh shit, that shot held for a second longer.
There's good stuff in this movie that I did like.
Yeah, 100%.
To plug my own Twitter feed, my own social media, I did a live tweeting of the film while I was in the theater.
Yes, you did.
Oh, yeah, I had some choice words for this thing. Oh, yeah. So there are good things I liked in the movie.
100%.
Small sequences that I liked. One of them was the in the dark fight scene with the zombies in the hall.
The
where it's illuminated by the muzzle flashes.
That
was great.
Epilepsy scene. Yeah, there was a sign on my theater for that one.
Yeah, I quite liked that sequence. It was a lot of fun. It like, that's genuinely terrifying. Like, there's zombies coming at you, but you can't see them. That's great.
It works
That's
so well. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if that was more of the movie, like I told you when we did our previous episode, the mansion is only like 20 minutes of the movie.
It's the last act, but yeah. It's not in there a lot.
Yeah, that's kind of the trick of this movie is that it's they marketed this thing with the mansion, and yet it's barely a part of the film. So, and you barely see any of it at all. You know?
Yeah, it's shot in very very like shallow depth of field. Like don't look at the location. Don't look at it too hard because it's definitely a warehouse somewhere.
I mean, they recreated the main hall pretty well, but after that, no, it's pretty much different. It's just, yeah, there's some good stuff I liked in this movie. There's some scenes that I liked, but there's a lot of just. Here's my biggest problem. You know how you always say you need a downtime scene in all these movies?
No, please don't do this to me, Jesse.
Do we ever get one of those in this movie?
We do. It's pretty early on.
Uh-huh. And what happens in it?
Okay, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. So I'll eat my words for a second. I will.
Go for it.
I want to call it the podcast scene. This is the scene where you need your characters to gel, right?
Yes.
And this movie has one of those where when you get to the diner, Leon's the rookie, Wesker's the big tall local hotshot, Jill's like fully into him, right? So like it has all the bits. It has all the bits to work. In a good movie, this scene plays out like aliens when they first wake up from the cryo sleep, right? It should feel like these are blue collar badasses.
Yes.
In this movie, I appreciate their gesture to have this scene. Don't get me wrong. I was happy to see this. This scene takes the time to like name drop every character 3 or 4 times to the point that it's awkward, where she's like, Wesker, oh, Wesker. And I'm like, I get it. I get who he is.
Oh, did you love it when Jill said, "This is Jill's sandwich now"?
This is a Jill sandwich, and it's like,
God damn it!
I wonder what your character name is. So again,
no, that's a thing in the games. Is that there's a sequence where she's gonna get crushed in a room, and Barry pulls her out of the room and says, "You were almost turned into a Jill sandwich."
That's better than what the movie presented.
Yes.
That has so much more like meat behind it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Speaking of meat, Wesker in this movie, so they combined Barry Burden and Wesker into the same person. Why?
I like with traps like those though. What is
I get it. He's a big guy, I get it, but just there's no purpose of like they cut out a lot of characters from the games, and this is I think you were saying this perfectly, that it should have been a Netflix show.
No, yeah, this felt like the first 2 episodes of something that should have 6 more episodes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even down to the point where, like, the things that I applaud the movie for, the police chief, I forget the actor's name. I think it's like
Donald Logue.
Donald Logue. He's in everything, by the way.
Yes.
He's one of those, like, he's schmaltzy guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just plays schmaltzy guys. He gets a full scene with Journey backing of him escaping a zombie attack.
Oh yeah,
that felt like Children of Men. It felt like fun Children of Men, and those scenes those are the scenes where I was locking in. I was like, oh shit, there's a good filmmaker here. This is a really fun idea. I was like getting giddy in those moments. Mm-hmm. And then they get cap-ended with, and then he goes back to the police precinct he was just at.
There's nowhere else for you to go? Really? There's one way in and out of town.
Every single scene that I was like applauding for being so fun and inventive, the very next one was like, oh yeah, but what if I also hit you in the nards for enjoying that?
The fucking decisions of this movie just I mean, I will give credit where credit is due. The movie looks good.
It's a good looking movie, isn't it?
It's good looking. You know?
Even the cheap stuff, even the like CW stuff looks better than some of the other Amell Brothers projects.
Yeah, you don't care for the Amell Brothers very much.
I don't. Mostly because, like, I feel like they could do a lot more than they're currently doing.
Fair point. Yeah. I do think there's some good production design here and there, but then there's some parts where, man, it nosedives. Like, the Star's office looks like a post office.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't even look like the same building.
No.
And also, the laboratory where Birkin goes to get the G virus, that looks like a veterinary office.
That looks like the did you ever play the Dying Light series?
No.
Okay, so it's like a parkour zombie thing.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah.
So all of the sub basements in Dying Light look like that. It's like broken down cafeteria science, if that makes sense.
I'll take your word for it. Oh, Jesus. And just, there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of thrown in for fan service. Like, why is Lisa Trevor in this film?
Good question.
So let's start at the beginning. Okay, so
God, this is gonna get convoluted so quick.
Oh, it's so quick. Okay, so how can a movie be stuffed with so much yet feel so empty?
Right.
So the Redfields, Chris and Claire, were orphans, and the orphanage in Raccoon City is where they grew up. Raised by William Birkin himself, who created the T and G virus.
Yes.
For Umbrella, and they were testing it on the kids in the orphanage. Okay. I mentioned this as my last thing that I said in my live tweets when I saw the movie. Birkin raising the Redfields is like Anakin building C-3PO in Phantom Menace. It just feels wrong.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're trying to tie together these disconnected threads in the loosest way possible so there's emotional through line throughout the film. It's as forced as you could possibly make it. And then Lisa Trevor gets thrown in as one of the experiments and is just hiding in the building. Why?
I would like to argue that there was an intern sent to see the Malignant set, and they came back and they were like, "This is what they're doing over there. We have to do this."
Oh God, no.
Am I wrong?
No, you're probably right. You're probably right. Oh, God. Yeah, and from there, it jumps ahead to modern day where Claire is coming back to Raccoon City and is in the truck with a truck driver who gets very handsy and very grabby and then hits a guy with his truck. And then we realize it's a zombie. And he has the worst dialogue I've ever heard in my life.
He was so poorly written.
Oh, absolutely awful.
The whole thing is like retroactive dialogue where he's like, "Oh, yeah, you're here to see your brother, aren't you? Because it's time for the holidays, isn't it?" It's so like forced.
Yes.
Every single
Look, if you are expecting good, look, let's make it clear. The Resident Evil franchise has never had the best story.
No.
Let's make that clear right now. Okay? And the original game has awful dialogue.
Yes.
Oh, it's so bad. So, if they're trying to make a direct adaptation of the original games, A+. Nailed it. That dialogue is absolute trash, and you nailed it.
On the mark.
But if you're trying to make a good movie, it ain't gonna do it.
No.
So, anyways, the zombie gets up and walks away without either of them noticing. How the hell that happened, I don't get it. And then the truck driver just gets back in the truck and just drives away. She watches this guy hit a person with his truck. And then he just gets in his truck and drives away.
'Cause why not?
And she doesn't call the cops.
Who is her brother, by the way?
Yes. What? Just This is only 15 minutes into the movie, but
Correct.
and then we're introduced to the rest of the cast. I will say it was surprising to see Daryl from Letterkenny showing up as Brad Vickers. That was fun.
Dude, Derry showing up and then disappearing.
Derry, yeah.
I almost texted you, like, in the movie. I was like, fucking Derry's here!
Yep. I pointed that out, and then I saw that he just dies, like, very quickly. I was like, oh, fuck you!
Yeah.
That was, Jesus Christ. You know what sucks? That originally, James Wan was at one point associated with this, as was Greg Russo.
Damn.
And they both left the project.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I feel like that's evidence of, like, this should be too easy to do.
Yeah, like Film Rescue. Do one movie with one game. Done.
Yeah.
Just like there's a whole series of Resident Evil novels that came out when these games were being released by Stephanie Delani Perry. I have them. They're not great books. They're trashy. You know, they are what they are. But in terms of like simplifying the content of the games, they did fine. They were pretty well done in terms of adapting content for the games, and they also have a few side stories that fill in gaps between the games. So it just, why not just do that? Go back to the source material, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? This should be a home run, guys. Trying to shove all this shit into one movie. For what? What is the purpose of adding Resident Evil 2 into Resident Evil 1? Like, what? Why do these two stories have to take place concurrently?
I'll see that question and raise you a better one. This movie thinks that they are so linked that we need timestamps of when things are happening.
Oh my god. It tries to create an artificial countdown clock.
And they never make it express what is counting down to. The 6 a.m. nuke is what we find out.
Yeah, and the problem is that it brings up even more questions of, well, who's nuking the city? Is it Umbrella nuking the city, or is it the military nuking the city? It's never made completely clear. Because Umbrella having control of nuclear weapons, I thought they were a pharmaceutical company.
Right.
You know what? It's not even worth debating at this point. It's just...
Well, and like the bigger stuff maybe gets explored in the other movies that we've talked about, and maybe this functions not as a reboot but as a side story. If that is the case, good idea. I'm here for it. Like, I would like a different presentation. I love the new movie holds shots for more than 2 seconds. Like, hey, I get to hold on to my sanity while watching this. Thank you. That all of that's great. Where I think it really loses me is where it starts to turn into Paul Anderson's Resident Evil. And if it sounds like I'm lying about this, what are the last 2 final bosses of this movie, Jesse?
Fuck, where are they?
So
oh yeah,
the first
Birkin.
Yeah, so the first one's the liquor from the first Resident Evil film.
Oh, like, yeah.
Let's say you ignored all the games. This is the same bad guy from the first movie.
Yeah, and the liquor's the main villain of the first film,
right?
Which is weird because it's only like a minor threat in the second game.
Which, I get that. Like the whole, scaling of things. I understand. I understand that. But for it to switch from, hey, we're doing what if the Insidious team did Resident Evil, and then halfway through the movie it goes, no, what if instead we did Neil Marshall's Walking Dead? No, wait, just kidding. What if instead we did all of these things? So it starts to pay off into this, like, do you want to do the first movie because you're reusing that boss? And then they have the scientist guy with the G virus to be not specifically the T virus, because we want to be sure we're a prequel here. It like it turns into this like, is this the Halo final cutscene? Like, we don't even fight the final boss. They just shoot a rocket launcher at him, which would have obliterated that train car, by the way. Not to be that guy, but...
That's the way all these games end, is that they always end with a bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always like a self-destruct sequence, and they always kill the main villain with a rocket launcher. It ends the same way in every game.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but the problem is... Leon just finds a rocket launcher on the train.
Oh, I sidebar, I really have to shout out Leon, the actor who plays him, looks just like the guy that produced my band's album, Caleb Rodriguez. They look like the same person. So watching this movie, I was like, hey, my producer's gonna save Raccoon City. And he does by the end of it.
Yeah, he kind of does. Yeah. Oh, God. I will say Leon is, like, the biggest idiot in this movie.
Leon...
Like, there's that sequence where they go into the armory and he doesn't know how to use a shotgun. Like, aren't you a cop?
Right.
What? Are you a fucking idiot? Like, you don't know how to use a shotgun. Claire has to show you. And, by the way, he's a cop, and he just let her into the armory, and she just starts taking guns, and he's fine with it.
Well, I mean, they make it clear it's his, like, first-ish day. You know what I mean? Like, he's very unclear as to the chain of command after his boss fucks off, which very much feels like retail work to me.
Just sitting there, falling asleep. By the way, when he falls asleep, the doors are open to the police department so you can see out the front. Isn't it, like, late September? Wouldn't it be cold outside? Why the fuck are the doors open?
I mean, who knows at this point?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I feel bad shitting on a movie that is objectively better than most Resident Evil films.
Yeah.
But also, like, objectively as good as Wrong Turn 5. Like,
I mean, these are not untalented people involved in this production.
No, they're not.
That's what sucks. It's like, what happens? And apparently, Johannes Roberts, the guy that wrote and directed this, is a big fan of the game. So it's like, well, what the fuck happened?
Well, and like, and maybe this ties into what you said at the beginning. There are missing scenes from this movie, and I feel like the missing...
No, not missing scenes. You said missing acts, and I believe
well,
that.
Yeah, Act 2 is gone. The shift from the helicopter is in the air to it has crashed into the building, that feels like a whole act to me. Of like...
Yeah. Well, there's one scene where Derry is on the ground, and he's just fucking around on his phone or something, and then a zombie attacks the helicopter, and then it crashes. Well, when did the helicopter get back in the air?
Exactly. So that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, yeah, I would like explanation here. However, I don't need all the ins and outs of everything else. Like the whole Redfield reunion scene. She breaks into the house, and they have that whole Dawson's Creek conversation.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Where, like, that whole thing, and it ends with, don't touch my bike, which, if anyone has seen a movie before, they know means...
I wonder what's gonna happen.
Claire's gonna grab his bike, isn't she?
Well, because that's how Resident Evil 2 opens on her storyline. She goes into town on a motorcycle, so that got that in there.
Right. So my first question is, the first 15 minutes of the movie aren't needed.
No, they're not.
Like,
her going into town is the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. And even the orphanage section only explains that the guy that was looking after them in the orphanage was maybe related to that. Like, none of that really overall matters in a way that you couldn't explain with Chris being like, yeah, so he raised me as his own because I decided to stay in the town. Like, yeah, that's small town living. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't need the...
By the way, but by the way, there's a giant, like, trying to debate the plot issue is the problem here, but because it's like the plot's terrible. But just like the little thing that bothered me, so it's like they say the virus is in the water supply.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone drinks water because you have to survive. Why the fuck aren't all of our characters zombies?
Good question. So from what I understood of one watch of the movie tries to explain that away by the people that have good immune systems have avoided it to this point.
So if I'm strong enough with my immune system, I can avoid becoming a zombie?
Yes, and also the movie wants us to know that if your immune system is not good, you'll turn more quickly because and this is one of the things I liked about the movie. The movie tries to show that zombies retain their humanity for a little while before they go like full zombie.
They kind of have that a little bit in the games. There's storylines where that does happen, where the characters, like zombies, kind of like can speak a little bit, but it's very, very brief.
Right, and like, and I like that they tied that into the idea of class. Like that, one of the opening, the final line of the opening paragraph is, the people that could get out were the people that could, except for the poor people that couldn't. And I like that line, that idea that like, hey, yeah, so the zombies are people we maybe don't want to die initially.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. It doesn't pay off by the end where it's like, oh, we need to escape the nuke that is going to clear the city of the sickness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, we don't actually see the town get destroyed, which is incredibly frustrating.
Well, we get to see Destroy All Humans cow float in the air for a second. That whole sequence is like, that's the expungable CGI of the movie.
Yeah, like you had a little money left over. That's what you spent it on, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, because nukes affect the gravity around a cow.
Jesus Christ.
They don't, by the way.
No, they don't. They immediately vaporize it. Yeah.
Which maybe they're adding more canon. Maybe Resident Evil has, maybe Umbrella has an anti-grav nuke, and we don't know about it.
It's possible. At this point, I'll accept anything.
Honestly. Dude, if fucking Mila Jovovich showed up in any of the subsequent movies, I wouldn't even question. I would be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess you're trying to link the canon, aren't you?
Sure. Why not? Sure. Why not? Yeah. I mean, there's little things that I did like. I mean, Moonlight Sonata showed up at one point in this movie. That was kind of cute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is a thing from the games, but it's just there because, it's there. But it has no real purpose to be there. You know?
Maybe that dives us into the best question of all of this.
Yeah.
So video games employ cutscenes, right?
Yes.
And cutscenes are filmmaking. Like, let's not mince words.
Basically.
That is just filmmaking, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're adapting a video game, the cutscenes should be easy to lift. Like, that's the at least you're storyboarding for what needs to happen here, right? What I think happens a lot of the time is the gameplay doesn't get lifted and adapted in the same way. So, like, an hour into Welcome to Raccoon City, we get the choose your player moment. All four characters are on the screen in the opening shot of the mansion, right? We get are you Redfield, Wesker, Valentine, or whatever the third dude was?
I think the third guy is supposed to be Barry, I think. Who was it supposed to be?
That sounds right to me, if I had to guess.
It's, the fuck is it? Oh, it's Richard Aiken. Oh yeah, he's the sniper.
Right.
But
right.
But why not just have that be Barry?
Sure. Yeah. So
but just
whatever. My point is, if you're going to adapt the gameplay sections into film, you have to adapt the non-player experience. So like the cutscenes, the animations, the stuff that builds onto the horror, because the part where you're playing the game, you can't adapt because I can't play a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess my issue is it feels like they're adapting the gameplay elements of like, chasing zombies or shooting zombies or those things. And it's like, yeah, that should make up like 2 minutes of my movie. The part that I need adapted from Resident Evil is the like onset horror and dread. I found a gun with two exposed cases on the floor. This means something. I need to explore this. I feel like the movie avoided that stuff in return to look at the action elements of like, yeah, I can press A enough to beat this boss, right?
Yeah, because there's all these things that they hint at in the movie. Like they hint at hunters, like these sort of like frog-like things with giant talons in when they find Bravo Team's truck. Like you see like the scratches along the sides of the truck. You're like, oh, hunters are going to show up in the movie. No, they're not in the movie. Like, what a fucking cock tease. Then you get into the mansion and it's just zombies everywhere. But then it's just, we go through this room, zombies show up. We go through this room, zombies show up. We go through this room, zombies show up. Like, there's no downtime in the mansion. People just kind of sitting around, just kind of like debating like what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Like, the plot should have like I said, start the movie at the mansion. Like,
it's so easy to start there because it's like, oh, a team went missing. Go find out what happened to this team.
Kind of like the game.
Kind of like
the game started. The game story works overall if you break it down like.
Kind of like the fucking Thing,
Yeah, it's the Thing. This team disappeared. Go find out what the fuck happened.
Yeah. This shouldn't be this hard, and I guess it shouldn't be this dragged out. They sacrifice the best moments to have the long diner sequence. That diner sequence is 10 minutes long.
For no reason.
And it ends with her bleeding out of her eyeball.
Oh, God, yeah.
The hostess waitress is bleeding out of her eyeball. And to me, I'm like, yeah, so that's an OSHA violation. Go to the fucking hospital. And the movie...
Yeah, I said the same thing. She's like, oh, no, it's probably nothing. Like, no, you're bleeding from your fucking eyes.
It's been happening for 2 weeks. It's nothing. And I'm like, blood from the eyeball is immediate hospital.
Yes, hospital. Oh, God.
Like, if blood comes out of anywhere that is not a wound, you need to go to the hospital.
Yes.
Your ass, your fucking pussy, vagina, or otherwise, your eyes, your ears, your nose, if they're bleeding, you're not in a good way.
Go to the hospital. Jesus.
Yeah, and she's just like, no, it's fine. And Leon goes, okay, cool, I'm going to my first day of work. No worries.
Leon is the biggest fucking tool. Oh, Christ. God. This, like you said, this shouldn't be this hard to do. This should have been a home run.
Yeah.
There's no reason for why this is bad other than just poor structure and poor writing. It's just, you can make this work if you just did one movie.
My question was more of this shot and not...
I really think there's a lot on the cutting room floor because this is just over 100 minutes long. This is barely under 2 hours.
Yeah.
There's gotta be more. Gotta be.
The whole helicopter sequence feels like an additive thing that converged both, the A and B plot, and then just shows up in the movie plot overall.
Yeah. It shows up because they need to get rid of the Brad Vickers character.
Well, and not only that, the scene it shows up in is Valentine and Wesker. They're like their emotional split, right? So it feels like the push into Act 2, but it happens like precariously in the middle of an overly long Act 1 and an Act 3 that you don't know exactly where it starts.
Yeah, the structure of this movie is awful.
Where is Act 3, Jesse? That's my question to you.
I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know.
If like, like nuts to the bolt, if I had to like put my testicles on the line, it's when they show up in the basement and the doctor is trying to hide the G virus. That's really where
I would assume that.
But
too.
that's the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I know. That's they race to the end of this movie.
Oh boy, do they.
They just sprint to the finish. Jesus Christ.
So we're safe on the train, except we're not.
Oh God. And they get on that train, and Chris Redfield like just knows what's going on. Like, you haven't even been in the same room with any of these people since the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Like, you just know what's going on. Like, okay. Like I said, just adapt one game. One thing, please. Like, it reminds me a lot of that Dark Tower movie where they tried to adapt all 7 books and slam them into one movie.
Oh, yeah.
And that movie's also only about 90 minutes, and it's just a giant train wreck. Like, this is, you ever take like a cheeseburger or a hamburger and kind of like press the bun down and like smash all the parts together? It's like, I got a lot of sandwich in my hand. Yeah, but it's all smashed together now. It doesn't look very good.
Right.
That's what it feels like, you know?
Part of the experience is the air between the buns.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I had an idea for how you could tell the same story of Resident Evil with a completely separate character.
Oh, yeah?
So you get a cameo from the character Hunk in from the games, who's like the soldier that's outside the city protecting the city limits.
Okay.
He's the guy in the gas mask.
Yeah.
There's like he's like a little side character, secondary character. He's like he works for Umbrella as a mercenary, and he's like on their BOW team, and he's like one of their best agents that keeps surviving. Like, he just magically survives every event. All of his team members get killed every single time, but he always survives. Have a story about him from the point of view of Resident Evil 1 and 2, and just seeing him be the cleanup guy, and so then we get all the information from his perspective.
Interesting.
Why not do that? Like that. I mean, say what you will about that Assassin's Creed movie. It's fucking terrible, but at least it was a new story set in the same universe with a new character. Like, that's good. That's a good idea. Do that, please. Don't try to adapt the content of the games because it doesn't work. Like, I mean, unless you're gonna do it as a Netflix series, like a 6-episode Netflix show, like this, what this should have been, don't adapt it. You don't have time. You know? If you had done this from the perspective of the character Hunk from Resident Evil 2, I can see that. Because then you can see, because he originally was the guy that was supposed to steal the G-virus from Birkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that whole cutscene where he breaks into the lab and shoots Birkin and then takes the sample and runs off. And then he drops it in the sewer and all the rats get it, and that's how the virus got throughout the city. He's responsible, technically, for the virus getting out in the city. He's responsible for the deaths of all these people.
The game really kind of split the difference between the first movie and thank you. The first movie and then this remake where it's like, it's not, you don't need the city-wide vantage point. It's not Gremlins, but you also you also don't need the like only lab specific view where it's like Portal or something like that. You kind of need that middle ground of like, yeah, so it's a local tiny city, and this corporation's getting away with a lot that you need to see, and then the city's paying for it in ways you need to see, but you're not seeing both of them quite yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you needed to choose what it wanted to be. Is it going to be a big, sprawling film set in a city, or is it going to be a small, contained film set in the mansion? By trying to do both, the proportions feel wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a self-contained narrative. It doesn't feel like a contained story. It feels like it's too big for what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And plus, from the timeline of the games, Resident Evil 2 takes place like 3 months after Resident Evil 1. Like, I'm fine with them changing certain things. That's fine. But having these two stories take place concurrently really doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, that's real fucking coincidence that Claire just happens to show up the same time that Chris gets sent off to look at the mansion. That's a real big fucking coincidence.
Right.
It's too much happenstance for one film. Birkin raising the Redfields, Lisa Trevor just happening to be Claire's childhood friend, which is fucking weird. Fucking weird. Like,
well, childhood friend, more like childhood nightmare experience. Like, we don't have good memories of them. That whole thing is like a nightmare sequence.
And the Lisa Trevor character is thrown into this movie as fan service because she was a really great monster to fight in the Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. Because she's unkillable. She can't die. That's her lot in life, is that she's immortal.
Yeah.
And she's basically 2 or 3 separate human beings smashed into one body. So, yeah, she's wearing her mother's skin. That's the skin that's around her face. That's her mother's skin.
Ew.
Yeah, that's not explained in the movie, but the design of it does not look very good because the practical effect does not look good. Yeah, it does. They don't explain it because I guess they figured that was too gross.
I guess.
It's already an R-rated movie. Like, what's the problem?
Which, oh God, I'm so glad we're talking about the R-rated version and not a PG-13 cut of this fucking movie.
This would be terrible as PG-13.
I was so worried going in. I was like, oh God, I hope this is not fucking PG-13 because I'm not going to have anything nice to say.
At least they got a lot of swearing in there. There's a lot of gore and such. I mean, there are good things to like in this movie, but yeah, it's as far as video game movies, this is not a great one, but I still say the Mortal Kombat movie is at the top of the heap. Ironically came out this year. It's like, so there's like your benchmark. Like, there's the best one. So.
Yeah, I feel like this is, if we're doing video game movies, if Mortal Kombat is the passing grade, I feel like this is like the A- of that passing or C- of that passing grade.
Yeah, I'm about to say A-. What the fuck?
Well, I guess I was thinking if Mortal Kombat's an A, this is an A-. If Mortal Kombat's a C, this is a C-. Like, it is so almost there.
Yeah.
There's enough here that I had all the stops to liking this, and I'm the guy that's gonna like your movie despite the movie. So if you can't win me over, this is not the totality that it could be.
Yeah. It's such a shame. Like, this thing had everything going for it.
It did, and it has so much still going for it. Like, there's a good director's cut in here. I hard bet there's a B+ director's cut in here.
Yeah. I mean, I will, if they can explain things better and explain things away and just have it flow better as a film in a director's cut, great. I will give it a pass. But as it stands, I watched this and I just think this feels like it's been hacked up by the studio.
No, you're right. It should have been a Dunkirk situation where the A and B plot don't need to converge to tell the story of this city.
Yeah, have the A story happen first, and then the B story happen second, and then you just combine them together at the very end.
They could both end on cliffhangers, and I'd be like, oh shit, where's part 2?
Yeah. Hey, we did that this year with Dune. Like, it ends in a way where it's like, yeah, I want to know more, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or just do it as a Netflix show, like you promised us.
Yeah. 9 episodes of, like, specifically this flavor content casting, a little punch up on the writing with 9 episodes. This would have been the best Resident Evil we ever got.
Yeah, because then you'd have time to get everything from the game into the show, because they even reference a lot of stuff from the games. Like, Jill says to Wesker, how would you prefer to die, being eaten by a giant plant or eaten by a giant great white shark?
Right.
Like, that's literally 2 things from the game. There's a giant plant and there's a giant shark. And I'm like, oh, neither of those are going to be in the movie, are they? Oh, they're not? Yeah, why am I not surprised?
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Like, if you had a show where you could do this, you could really indulge in that and really scare the shit out of people.
Exactly. And like, they don't have to amount to the great white shark killing, which I know what you're referencing when you say that. That doesn't have to happen if the conversation is elevated to that Tarantino level of like, okay, yeah, but you're giving me enough reference here that you're showing your dick to me that you understand this series.
Yeah.
Like you're exposing, yeah, I'm not just into this, I'm a nerd for this. If you show me that, yeah, I'll give you that scene without the payoff, or I'll giving a good payoff to that. I'll take that. I don't need a lot, but I need a little more than an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not enough time for this story.
It's enough that I know that the missteps were at the cost of getting a film cut, and the good steps I know were genuinely creative. So that tells me the right person behind this idea is going to deliver. A movie is not the way to deliver that. It really isn't.
Yeah, this should have been a TV series. Yeah. It sucks.
I would have forgiven the Amel of all of this if it were a series. I would have been like, oh yeah, a series. Yeah, I get casting him. That's a good casting for that.
But don't you like that show Upload?
I did. I really did like Upload. He's punching above his grade in that show, though. Let's be honest.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, at least it's better than the other Resident Evil movie.
Yeah, no, dude, genuinely, I came home and I was like, I would maybe watch the first one again. I would definitely watch the third one again just because I love Kmart so much. But this is the only other one that I was like, yeah, I would watch it again. Like, I'm not disinterested from this material.
Yeah.
Everything from 4 on for the original series is...
Don't waste your time.
Dude, it's genuine dog shit. It is, like, worse than dog shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks.
But honestly, like, to take this whole year into account, if this is the worst thing I watch, we're doing pretty good for bad movies.
Hey, you watched Malignant and you think that's better than this?
I absolutely think Malignant is better than this. On every level, I would watch Malignant again. Oh, dude.
Oh, no.
Every single level, I would watch Malevolent first.
Malignant, you mean?
Yeah, Malignant. That's what I meant.
God. Oh, Christ. Oh, my God. Oh, God. Part of me wants this movie to do well, because it would be nice if they did do another one, because it'd be like, okay, they made some money, they can do another one, they'll do it right this time. But another part of me is like, you know what? If this is what they're just going to keep doing, is this style of film, I don't care. Where it's like, they don't even, like, they've skipped over a lot of stuff because Jill is combined into this storyline, so you don't have any Resident Evil 3 content, which means no Nemesis. Also, there's no misdirection in this movie. There's no looming threat.
Yeah.
There's no countdown clock. There's no, like, impending force coming after them. So the whole film is kind of tension-free. By the way, let's mention, this is supposed to be a horror movie. It's not scary. It's very not scary.
Every scary moment is underscored in a bad way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything is bad.
Everything that could have been scary gets undercut in a way that's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, your horror movie should be horrifying, dude.
I'm glad it's not more Conjuring series like I feel like that's what they wanted in the first act, was like, oh, let's make it like The Conjuring, let's make it like Insidious, let's make it make it feels like that initially, and then it shifts away from that in a way that I thought was good, but then it shifts into a place that's like so campy, and then by the third act you're like, oh, you've skipped so much that like I can't give you that crazy third act payoff that, like, again, we'll bring up Malignant. I'll forgive everything about Malignant because it turns into Evil Upgrade, and that's Dude, from that point on, the movie's so much fun. It is so fun.
Yeah, I'll agree. It's fun. It's stupid, but it's fun.
Stupid fun. This movie goes, oh, we're going to go stupid like Malignant. And I was like, okay, cool. So it's going to be fun, right? And it's like, nope, it's not going to be fun at all. This is going to be really boring. This is going to be really achingly lacking of comedy. And the comedy's so there for it, too.
And just like the scene where like Chris Redfield shoots Birkin in the head, and it's like, it was reminding me of that sequence in Evil Dead where the Deadite says, "I'll swallow your soul," and then Ash goes, "Swallow this," and shoots it in the head. I was like, that totally was the point where that could have happened.
It needed the one-liner. Like, it should be sometimes funny.
Resident Evil is a cheesy franchise.
Well,
like Resident Evil 5, Chris Redfield literally punches a boulder and knocks it off a mountain. Like, literally, I'm not even kidding. Punches a boulder.
Well,
this is a cheesy series.
I'll do you one better. In therapy, like in therapy training and treatment, there's an understanding that the final therapy sessions will be funny and you will laugh at them. That's part of the process, is to look back and laugh at the pain you experienced, because your current mindset puts it into a new experience where you're like, oh, if I was where I was now, where I experienced that, I would find it funny because it's not as complex as I thought it was. And that's what Resident Evil should be. It should feel scary for a second, and then you should stop and think like, oh, fuck, that was the funniest thing that ever happened. That's the feeling you should get. And instead the movie goes, no, this is horrifying, and you should still feel horrified. And I'm like, yeah, I do, for the residents of Raccoon City, and that's about it.
Yeah. Nobody has any depth. Nobody has any personality. It's like, characters need to have character arcs.
Yeah.
They need to have something. I don't care what, just give them something.
The fact that I can more ably recall Jesse Ventura's character from Predator, the sexual tyrannosaur, versus Jill Valentine from this movie, who is a whole ass video game character, tells me at some point they fucked up that diner sequence, that it should have been more Predator than character introduction. I don't care your character's name as long as I can describe them as a person.
Yeah. Give me personality types.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what your name is. Give me personality.
What is Jesse Ventura's character from Predator? Name him. I can't without looking it up. I could figure it out for sure, but I can't name him.
Oh, fuck. I never even thought about that. What the fuck is his name?
His name is Badass McMuscles. That's all he needs to be. Yeah, I have no idea what his character's name is. I really don't.
Oh, God, shit. What? Fuck, this is going to drive me crazy. God damn it.
And yet I can name Jill Valentine from the movie, but her character is, I'm sexy, but I'm also a badass. Which, hey, that's better than Captain Marvel, but, we could...
Well, also, that's, every fucking character in this movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's every character.
I'm sexy, but badass. Mm-hmm. Which the Resident Evil games aren't sexy, which is confusing. That's the most confusing part, I think, overall, is the, why do we need sex appeal? We need death appeal.
Yeah, what? It's a messy franchise in that regard.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, Blaine, that's it. That was the character's name, Blaine. That's so memorable.
I'm going to forget that immediately after this podcast. I'm going to remember Jake Sully before I remember Blaine.
Jake Sully.
Well, here we are at the end. My personal experience is watch Resident Evil 1, 3, and then Welcome to Raccoon City, and then forget that this exists as movies and play it as games instead.
I agree. Go back and play the Resident Evil remake for the GameCube. and play the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes for the current gen consoles. That's it. You know, maybe play the old ones if you want classic Resident Evil, but I don't think they've aged very well.
Oh, see, I say like play 7 and 8, but like not as a movie person.
Oh yeah. Play them as games. Don't think of them as movies.
Yeah. They're very much their own experiences here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, God. They almost had it with this one. They almost did.
I hope this ages into a cult classic. I feel like there's enough here for it to, but even if it does, I know that I'm going to be in the boat that's like, yeah, it's a cult classic, but not because it's great.
Yeah.
It's because there's goodness within.
There's something in there. It's just it can't quite find its way out.
There really is magic in there. Genuinely, there are times where the magic pops out, and that's why it's so frustrating. It's like I see how good this could have been.
Yeah, it could have been good, but got fucked by the studio and just trying to shove these two games together. Just do one. Just do one.
Do them as like if you're trying to do a sequel, Resident Evil 2 exists as a sequel on its own. Like organically, it exists to be like, oh, so what was happening outside of the mansion? That's the canon.
Just you can say these stories take place at the same time. Just have them be separate movies.
Right. Everybody saw Vantage Point in 2007 and agreed that is not the way to tell a story.
Yeah. No, it's very much not.
It's 7 stories in one, though. Oh, so you did 7 short films but made it confusing? Good for you.
Good job.
Dennis Quaid is in all of these? Fuck!
I can totally not follow what's happening. Oh, great. Ugh, Christ.
God damn it. So what else, Jesse?
So what else? God. Well, at least we still have that Mortal Kombat movie. So at least we got that.
That's a 75-25 split on that one. That's as good as we've got for gaming movies so far.
Yeah. Looking forward to Uncharted.
Oh, man. What about the Mario movie? Chris Pratt is not doing his own voice.
Oh, fucking kill me. Oh, Christ. Oh, God damn it. Fuck.
Maybe we'll save all those up and just cover all the video game movies on one podcast at once.
So just do the game as you know, as a film, and you're done. There you go. Done.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off for the night?
God, no. Jesse and I saw this in theaters, so you don't have to. Wait till it's streaming for free. But do watch it. I would say do watch it.
Fair enough. Yeah. Quick little sidebar. I did see recently The French Dispatch on last Friday. A lot of fun. A high recommendation on that one. It's another Wes Anderson film. It's fantastic. It's very good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, very, very good film. And Seth and I are putting together our best of 2021 lists. This was a very good year for films.
It really was.
Really was a good year for films. Maybe this one that we saw wasn't, but, you know, there was a lot of crap this year, but there was also a lot of really good stuff.
You can't win them all, but we got a lot of wins this year. I went to bed many evenings this year going like, what a fucking good movie that was.
Mm-hmm. Lots of good stuff this year. Lots of good stuff. Yeah. All right, well, I'm done for the night. I finished off my beers. I'm not drunk, but I'm just kind of sad now. So, I'm done. Good night.
Good night.